Welcome to Better Daily Life, where we are moving forward 1% better every single day. Download the app and supercharge your journey at betterdaily.life. Now it's time to ditch facts and get facts with your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What is up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Monday. It is Mindset Monday, and I'm super stoked to bring you the mindset today. And the mindset is, say it, don't spray it. Don't worry, I'm not talking about spitting while you talk. I'm actually going to talk to you today about the form of communication that you use to say difficult things, and I'm really looking forward to bringing that to you this morning. Good morning, Gate T. Thank you for joining me this morning. Happy 38th day of the Faithful 40 Challenge. I'm exceptionally excited because we just finished our group fast, and I get to eat again, so that's nice. And it was a wonderful time. If you joined us for the group fast, I'd love to hear from you. What were your takeaways from that period of fasting? We started fasting on Wednesday evening and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and broke it on Sunday. And according to your medical issues and your needs and your goals, as well as your experience fasting, you might have broken that up into some smaller fasts or did some partial fasting. I'd love to hear how your fast went. We'll be talking to some people in our community following the Faithful 40 Challenge about their experience in the challenge, as well as what they took away from these different phases. So we're just finishing up the love phase. Finish strong. The question today is, what have you achieved or experienced as far as better goes in the last 40 days? I'm looking forward to hearing those responses, and I'm collecting my shout outs and my prize winners for this Faithful 40 Challenge. We got 3 more days though. We still have a few people neck and neck to get into that top 10 of encouragers and posters, as well as scoring some points for their team. So don't stop. Finish strong. This is going to be a good end to the challenge. So today, the mindset is, say it, don't spray it. You need to know a few things about communication for this mindset to make any sense to you. So first, you might have heard this before, but a very large majority of our communication is nonverbal. What does that mean? That means, like, when I'm talking to somebody, like imagine the landscape that communication between human beings and evolved from. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have letter writing, wasn't even a thing when we learned how to speak to one another. And who knows what the first languages sounded like. But when you go back to things like Hebrew, which has been around much, much longer than English has, then you can see that there's communication happening between individuals in a largely illiterate society, meaning that the vast majority of what you had to communicate to another individual happened in a face-to-face setting. That means when I speak to you as an individual, a large amount of what you're receiving in your mind from me is not my words. I'm going to say that again, even though it doesn't matter, because you're not receiving a large amount of what I'm saying from my words. But when we speak to one another, a large amount of what our brain is receiving, what our brain is processing, that the other person's saying is not actually coming from their words. It's coming from nonverbal cues. Nonverbal cues like eye contact. Nonverbal cues like facial expression. Nonverbal cues like posture while speaking, and tone and tempo. So if I speak to you very slowly and I have something important to tell you, you key into the slowing of my speech as a build-up to something intense. That's why it's really frustrating if you ever talk to somebody who speaks a little more slowly in general, and you're really trying to fill in the blanks for them. You're like, I'm listening. Have you ever done that before? Or have you ever noticed when somebody's telling a story and you could see that the story starts out interesting, but there's no point to the story, and so now you're stuck listening? You're like, so maybe that's what I'm doing to you right now, and if that's the case, I'm very sorry. But the point is, what we receive in communication is mostly nonverbal. I'll give you one more example and then I'll move on. I work with a youth individual in our church, and he's very involved in working in children's ministry. And I love this kid. He's a good kid. He's got a lot going for him, and he's growing up well, and I hope the best for him. At the same time, this kid has terrible posture. Okay. And that really stinks for him because he's young. So he's growing and he kind of hunches over. You know, he hunches over and his chin's kind of down and his shoulders are over. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, you can't see what I'm doing here, but what I'm doing is I'm pulling my shoulders in, rounding them forward. I'm pushing my head forward. I've got my chin tucked, right? So that when he speaks, when he has something to say to you or to another kid or whoever, when he speaks, he seems shrunk. He seems shrunken down. He seems fearful. You receive it as in like, why are you so tight? Why are you so tense? Relax, man. Why are you so bent over? Why are you so shrunk, right? And so I pick on this kid a little bit, but in a good way. Like it's one of those fatherly kind of pickings, and encouraging things. I'll tell him, hey, you have great posture. Stand up straight. You know, roll your shoulders back. Use those great back muscles you have. You have a great physique. You could actually be quite the leader if you would stand up straight and say what you need to say upright rather than shrunken down. And so every time I see him, I'll take 2 fingers right behind his shoulder blades and pinch them together and pull them back, right? But that's just an example because when you speak to somebody who's hunched over and they're talking to you and there's kind of a mumble to their voice as opposed to when they're standing up straight with their shoulders back, you receive it differently. You receive different, even if the message is the same, even if the words are the same, you receive what they're saying differently. So this mindset today, say it, don't spray it. You need to understand that around 80 to 85%, given what we know in psychological studies, it's a hard thing to study, but around 80 to 85% of communication is non-verbal. Now, why this mindset, Alex? I'm telling you this today because we have created a whole world of communication that takes nonverbal cues out of the equation. It's very possible today to pick up our phone and to text somebody something. And what we've done is we've removed 80 to 85% of our ability to convey our message via text, to convey our communication. We've removed most of the content of the message and just put the bare bones out there. And that's really hard because what that means is the recipient of the text can read the text and they can read it in whatever emotion they can imagine. It might be the emotion that they are currently experiencing right now. So maybe you say something and the person receives it with anger or receives it with sadness or receives it with anxiety. And you didn't mean any of those things. Just so happens that they had a really rough time in traffic and then they read your text. They're like, why is he coming at me, bro? And well, that's not good. That's not good at all. We have a tendency nowadays for our speed of communication to mess with our message. I have something to say to you. It might matter a little bit. It might be something like the grocery list, or it might matter a lot. It might be something like an apology. But I text it because, you know, who has the time to talk face to face, especially? Geez, that would be terrible. And, and so instead of saying it, I'm spraying it. I'm putting it in a text. I'm putting it in an email. God forbid I have some political opinion and I'm going to throw it out on social media for everybody to just deal with. And we spray a lot. We're spraying a lot. And this mindset's just as much for me as for you. But I'm looking at this week and I want you to know it's not just like you should do this. Maybe you could communicate better. But I'm saying that people are hungry for real communication. People are hungry for authentic, true, full, 85% of the message that is intended is their communication. Leslie says, I'm going to start calling you. I'm not aiming this at you, kid. I love it. That's great. And this is really important. And I have a few things to say about this, and I'm saying it. If you're catching the podcast, you're like, where's my nonverbal communication? You need to get into the premium spot of Better Daily Live because you can see me and you can hear me, and that's about as full as communication can get in the virtual space. But this is very important. Say it, don't spray it. I had an opportunity to talk to a few people at church this weekend. I work with a lot of kids. There's a lot of families who come through. Sometimes it's a whirlwind, we've got crying babies. We're trying to, make sure they're happy to be there and hand them off to somebody who can hold them and comfort them. We have new families that we're making sure that their kids get the tag that they need to get so they don't go home with some stranger or whatever. Like, it can be a little crazy. Sometimes the technology doesn't work. There's all kinds of things that can happen that can be distracting in this process of running a church service. And at the same time, I have moments where I'll cross paths with somebody that's like, hey, I can tell something's wrong in that person's demeanor. Maybe they're not making eye contact like they normally do. Maybe they're a little hunched over, like my friend who needs to change his posture. Maybe you can tell that it was a rough day getting the kids up and ready for church, and add that on top of rough report at work or a rough conversation with your spouse, and man, you're just kind of bent and broken. So I had this one guy who's walking through, and I could tell it was one of those things you could see, the kids were kind of not disheveled, not like they're less than taken care of, but we had a few fights with the toddlers this morning. That's what it looked like. We had a few fights of who was going to put their shoes on and what clothes we were going to wear, and it's time to get out the door and eat your dang breakfast and all that stuff. And he's avoiding eye contact, and he's walking, and I stop him, and I put my hand right here on his chest, and I said, hey. And he it's like I woke him up. I said, what's wrong with you? And he goes, what do you mean what's wrong with me? And I said, look, man, I can tell something's the matter, and I wanted to stop you real quick and give you an opportunity to talk about it before blazing through the rest of your morning. Are you okay? What's going on? And he was like, I'm facing a layoff at work, and I'm pretty stressed about it, and I'm praying for clarity. I don't really know what the next step needs to be. And so that's what's up. That's what's the matter. And I was like, wow. Thank you for telling me. It takes a lot to open up like that on the spot. And then I shared with him, I said, hey, are you familiar with Psalms 119, 105? Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I said, picture for me a dark forest, and you're holding a lamp, and you only get to see the next 10 feet in front of you. And so you step out on faith, and that opens up a few more feet that you can see. And so you take a next step of faith. And what's really cool about following God's will in your life is, you don't get to see everything beyond the lamp, but you do know the next step. And so I'll be prayerful for you that you know the next step. And he gave me a hug, and he was like, man, I needed that. Thank you. And I'm not telling you this to toot my own horn. I'm telling you this because this is a message to myself just as much as it is to you. We need to say it. Don't spray it. It's not enough that I find this guy and I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna make a note to text him later. Hey, man, you didn't seem okay at church. Are you all right? He needed that. He needed somebody to look him in the eyes, show a little compassion, slow him down a little bit, and talk to him, and give him somebody to talk to. He needed that. And I'm telling you that the world around you is very hungry for that. I'm not going to get started on the kids. I'll get all teared up. But the world is hungry for that. The world is hungry for a group of people who say it, not spraying it. It's not enough to take to Twitter. It's not enough to take to Instagram. It's not enough to jump on Facebook and make your opinion known. You need to. You need to. When you cross paths with somebody and you have something to say, maybe you don't have to be as forceful as I am about it. I don't even know if that's the right way to be. I just know I'd rather do this terrible than not do it at all. So my mindset this week is to say it, don't spray it. And I pray the same for you. That doesn't mean you can't type out an encouraging text now and then, or write an email that needs to be written. Sometimes things are hard and fast and people just need to deal with it. That's fine. But I will tell you that in our society, when we speak things in textual form and we just kind of send them out there and see how it's going to stick, my hope is that we have balanced that with a relational communication. If most communication's nonverbal, then before you say something, check yourself. Say, do I have the relationship with this person required? Do I have the relationship with this person required via text, via social media post, via email? Do I have the relationship with this person that's required for them to receive this the right way? Because if you don't, you might be better off video calling them. And that's the last thing I was going to say here is in the premium group here in Better Daily, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And if you are a premium member here in Better Daily and you have something that you need to say, or you have something that you want to connect on, we have the opportunity to do multimedia posts here, videos and pictures and write it out and stuff. But we also have the opportunity to make our members capable of going live. And so for our members who are like, I've had a conversation with you and you've done your premium member chat with Alex, then I can actually open up your ability to go live so that you can address us and talk to us with some of that nonverbal communication, and we can respond to you. So you'll see some of that communication start to come. I'm looking forward to seeing some lives here in our group from those of you who have something to say that would be beneficial and edifying and encouraging and maybe even a little critical, but in a loving way. I'm really looking forward to opening that up to you. We'll see communication about that coming out soon. So that said, say it, don't spray it. Try really hard this week to let your nonverbal communication do a lot of speaking for you. And check yourself. Just that one moment, just before you send an email or just before you send a text, and say, is there a better way to communicate this, or do I have the relationship necessary to make sure that this turns out well for everybody? Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Thank you so much for joining me today in Mindset Monday, tomorrow's Nutrition Tip Tuesday, and the 39th day of the Faithful 40 Challenge. But until then, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for your 1% better. Be you, just better, in mind, body, and spirit. Go to betterdaily.life, download our app, and check out our 5-star coaching resources. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.life today.